we just got back in from sailing for the day, and we're going to go over stowing the boat. I'm going to show you some techniques that make things easy and helps preserve your gear, so that when you're putting your boat away, you know, when you do buy your own boat, you'll be able to do things in a way that will really preserve the gear and preserve the lines. And what we're looking at first up here is the headsail. As you can see, you know, we've been out sailing and we just furled it up as we were coming in. But we're going to clean that up a little bit. You see how the sheets are kind of drooping down and it's a little bit loose there. So I'm going to unfurl it slightly till I'm ready to start furling back in. Then I have my furling line here, and you'll see in my hands, I'm going to run the sheets in my hands and the furling line in my other hand, so that I give some counter load, some counter tension to the headsail sheets. Now I'm ready to furl back up. And as you can see in the sail, I'm going to furl up and I'm going to feed those sheets in so that they roll up nice together. See how that's working? And it's nice to have your headsails furled with the clew facing aft. Now at that point, you'll see in my hands, I can drop my sheets, but I'm not letting go of my furling line. Now if you look up closer here, I'm going to do a proper cleat hitch on the furling line to make sure that's cleated. It's very important that that's very well cleated so it doesn't come loose at night. Now I'm going to show you a technique here that we're going to go back over at the end of the video. I'm going to do a coil where I have my left hand like this. The line is coming in from my left. I'm going to make my coil, and then I simply reach through, take that part. This part of the line has to stay with the coil. So I'm going to reach through, counterclockwise twist, and that hangs right there like that. I'll show you that again real quick. We'll do the spinnaker sheet, the spinnaker halyard. So I'm holding it with my left hand, line's coming in from my left, make my coil. Then I'm going to reach through, and this part of the line has to stay in the coil. If I want a little bit more, I can just take a little bit more, counterclockwise twist, slip that over the top. Now we have our sheets drooping down. We want to take care of those. So we're going to give some counter tension to this. And if you can move to where you can see this winch here, the minimum amount of turns around that winch, just to hold the sheet with a good amount of tension on it so it doesn't lay on the deck. We don't want to put multiple wraps on there because that's just a moisture trap. That's just going to lead to deterioration because the line can't breathe. It can't drain. So we do want to come in on our feeder tang and then into our pinch shift here. And we're just going to make some nice loose coils so the line can lay on the winch like that and not lay on the deck. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. So that basically shows you furling your headsail up nicely. We like to get 2 wraps of our sheets around our headsail, and we like to have the clew facing aft, and then we counterload our sheets and hang them in a way that they're not sitting in their own puddle. All right, we'll see. I'll go on to the next thing in a moment. All right, I'm going to show you a really simple and easy way to get your mainsail cover off on a small boat like this. We already have the twist locks undone up forward and along the bottom here. I've got one more to do here, the twist locks. And it's really easy. It's just to stand in one place and just pull the cover back to you and fold it up in nice panels like this. Now I'll tell you why we want to do this, because it makes putting it back on really easy. When I get to the front here, I'm going to take the head portion and just kind of flop it over like that. I'm going to kind of hold it like a saddle, if you will, and then fold it up once more. That way when I get the sail cover back out at the end of the day, I can lay it over the boom really easy. It's already oriented, and then I'll do it up in the front, and I'll bring it all the way to the aft end of the boom, connect it there, and then I'll do the twist locks along the bottom. So that's an easy way to take care of your mainsail cover and make it easier when you go to put it back on. All right, we want to look at our mainsail flaking. Now I've gone ahead and raised the main. So I'm going to show you when I'm dropping the main or when we're dropping our mainsail, you know, while we're out there, what we want to pay attention to while we're doing that. And it's all about organizing our luff. So I'm going to go, and I have the halyard here with me. I can just bring it out to the foredeck. I'm in front of the mast, obviously, and that's where I want to work, because when I bring the sail down, I want to make sure that I'm organizing that luff properly, back and forth to each side. If I reverse this, if you can see there, that's going to throw my whole flake off. So it has to go to the other side. So when I'm dropping my main, this is all I'm really focused on, is making sure that my luff is organized. So I don't have to do this again when I come back into the marina. And hell, you got stuck there a little bit. Okay, now when you look at this, you can see clearly that this is all organized back and forth and back and forth. It's not reversing itself anywhere. And I like to remember first flake is over to port. That's not a standard, I'm just pointing out that on this flake, the first flake is to port. Now that's going to lead to our next shot, which is going to show you how you can flake the main by yourself as long as that luff is properly organized. All right? All right, we're going to talk about our main halyard and stowing our main halyard. One of the things, of course, you can see, if you look up, it's a little bit tangled. It's forward of the rig. We want to make sure that's clear of the rig. And it's clipped forward here, so I'm going to unclip it so I can stow it aft. Very important whenever I'm handling a halyard that I exaggerate being assertive with it. I'm handling it as though it wants to jump out of my hand. So you never want to let go of a loose halyard. It can sky, this halyard can be skied, and then you're going to have to go aloft to get it back. And I'm going to take it aft of a stanchion so that when we stow it aft, it won't be chafing or banging on the rig at night. And I'm just going to clip it off to the lifeline. And then when we counterload this, we don't need to put a lot of tension or load on it, just a little bit of tension on it. And now it won't chafe or bang on the rig at night by having it stowed aft of a stanchion a little bit further back on the boat. Pretty simple. And again, always hold your halyards assertively. Handle them as though they're trying to jump out of your hand. You don't want to lose a halyard. It'll ruin your day, trust me. About putting our boom away, one aspect of that, as well as boom kickers. We've added a boom kicker on this boat, and we want our members to start to see how this works. So down here you can see our boom kicker, and right now the boom is kind of pulled down tight, and that's causing the boom to twist over to one side. Before we reset this, we also want to make sure that our boom vang is absolutely released. We don't want tension on that. So make sure your boom vang is released. And now as we go to the back of the boom, you'll see the main sheet is sheeted in. So I'm going to release the main sheet, and then I can push up on the boom manually and it'll come to a resting place. Then when we lock our sheet down, very gentle load. Don't pull down on it very hard, that's fine right there. Now the boom is resting fully on the boom kicker with the boom kicker relaxed. See the difference there? And that holds your boom up for you. So make sure your boom vang is released. Release your main sheet, push the boom up until it rests on the boom kicker and the boom kicker is fully relaxed, and then just gently counterload your main sheet. And that has your boom in position for the rest of the stowage we're going to show you in a moment. All right, so we're still putting the boom away, so there's still a few more things we want to do on the boom here. One of the things that's important, our Cunningham should be completely released and free. We want to completely release our reef line here so that that isn't restricted at all. And very important, our clew outhaul needs to be released so that we're not stretching the sail when we're putting this, when we put the boat away. Now, if you look at the aft end of the boom here, you'll see our clew outhaul is now released. That takes the load off of the foot of our sail. Very important. You wouldn't want to take a favorite shirt and stretch it really hard and put it away when you're not going to wear it for another week. So we've got our clew outhaul eased, we have our Cunningham eased, and now we want to look at our reef line. We want to make sure that our reef line is fully extended as though the boat's not reefed. So we're just kind of chasing that back and make sure that's completely free so that when we go to hoist our sail, the reef line isn't disturbing the sail ability to go up. And then there's our boom kicker again. And so now we're ready to flake the main next. All right, well, we're getting ready to flake our main. We've just come in from sailing. So again, I'm going to handle my halyard very assertively. I'm going to make sure it's not twisted around the rig or anything. And I'm going to bring it to a position aft of a stanchion so it doesn't slap and chafe on the rig all night. Now, since we've organized our flake, we can work from the leech of the sail, from the back of the sail. Doesn't really pay off to try to do a bunch of this in the middle of your sail. Just work from the leech. We know that the first flake is to port. And see how that's already forming a panel along there? And then I just work down the leech. I know the next fold is about here. And while lifting the sail up and kind of flopping it a bit, pulling it back, I can find that next flake. Now this is a fully battened main. So on a fully battened main, we know each of these battens terminates in a slug or a slide. That's also helpful. And then I reach down the leech, and you can see that next one forming. And there's the next flake there. And I can basically flake the sail solo like this by just working the leech. There's the next one. Now it's slippery fabric, so I got to get a sail tie on there. And with your sail ties, we really just want to do a slippery hitch. I think of it as a half a shoelace, and not too tight, just tight enough to hold the sail till we get the cover on it. So I'm going to tie that off in a slippery hitch, like that, and leave the knot at the top. Now I can finish flaking. And we'll put our other sail ties on there, and then we'll put our cover on. All right. Okay, since we put our mainsail cover away earlier, well organized, we've got its orientation. And all we have to do is kind of toss it up here like a saddle. We're going to do the front of it first. And for purposes today, I'm just going to do a couple twist locks. But we want to do our twist locks first. And there's more of them. I'm just going to do a couple to show you the basics here. Once we have our twist locks made, we do want to make our collar as tight as we can. That helps keep rain and debris out of there. And then just a simple shoelace tie. Simple and easy is always better. But making that nice and tight so that it helps keep rain from getting in at the head of your sail. Now that I have the mainsail cover made up forward, all I have to do is roll it back. Set that aside. I'm going to attach it at the back. Since we have a boom kicker on this, we just tie the tie around the boom like this to keep it from going forward. And again, shoelace tie. Then we can go along the bottom. One of the other things is to take our reefing line, and we can just wrap that around a few times so that it's under cover as well. Anything that we can keep under the mainsail cover, we want to try to keep it out of the weather and out of the sun. And once I have the back made, I'll go along and do my twist locks on the bottom. Okay, we're going to put our main sheet away. One of the first things I'm going to do is traveler over to the non-dock side. Just like our tiller, we move this over to the non-dock side, and that's part of what we call comfort at the docks. Just makes boarding and moving about the boat a lot easier. So I've got the traveler over to the non-dock side. We're going to stow, on this boat, we can stow our traveler lines quite handy to just tuck them right into there. Again, the goal is the line is not laying on the deck. It's not laying in its own puddle. Now we're going to do a main sheet coil. For our main sheets, we really prefer to do the simplest of coils. This main sheet isn't that long, so I'm going to go ahead and coil it or put twists in it. If it was a longer main sheet, bigger boats, we start figure eighting those. You'll learn about that in subsequent videos. We'll get this macrame out of there. Oh, got a little macrame. And when I finish this coil, I'm simply going to take one of my coil loops, doesn't matter which one, I'm going to pass that all the way around and back up through. So I just took one of my coils, pass it all the way around, and run it back up through, and it will look like that when you're done. And then we just lay this in our main sheet falls. And very important, this is the boat with the boom kicker, so we're not pulling down hard on this. On the boats with the topping lifts, also don't wrench down on your main sheet. There's no need to leave a lot of load on that. It's just stressing your rig. So there's a well stowed main sheet and traveler. All right, I'm going to show you a little bit about stowing your engine. Hey, have a good sail, you guys. Yeah. So first thing, we want to make sure our engine tiller handle is straight up so it doesn't jam against our transom. Then we're going to bracket up on the engine. A light push down will release it and bracket up. Now we're getting ready to tilt up the engine. Has to be in forward. And we want to be very mindful of our fuel line so that it doesn't kink up against our engine bracket handle. That's very important. When we tilt the engine up, the shifter handle is going to come against the bracket and shift itself into neutral. That's fine, but we want to make sure we don't bind the fuel line against the engine bracket handle. The release is over on the side here. And see how that clears there, and it's not kinking up against the engine bracket handle. And then of course we make sure our vent cap is closed. And that stows our engine for the night. Please leave it in a straight up position. We don't want it over to the side or anything. So the engine should be left in a nice straight position like this. All righty. All right, when we get ready to put our tiller away, we just want to get our cover over our tiller. It doesn't have to be tightened down here. It's not going anywhere. We have our tiller bungee, which we clip here. We want to go above or outside of our backstay. We put our tiller to the non-dock side. Oops. Clip that back on there. We put our tiller to the non-dock side. One wrap around is fine. And then over to this side. That's all there is to it. This keeps the tiller out of your way when you're getting off and on the boat and keeps it in a vertical position. So again, it can drain, it can air, it's better for the wood. When it's laying flat, that moisture just sits there. And everything is outside of the backstay. That helps keep it up out of your way while you're working back here. So on a small boat, below decks is really easy. We just want to make sure our safety gear, we keep the majority of our safety gear over to the port side. Here's our ditty bag for when we're sailing. Of course, we got our sound producing device. We can just tuck that into our kit there. We're switching over to electronic flares. I'm just pointing out that your daytime distress flag and your nighttime distress flare over on the port side. Type 4 is in place. Now important here too is that our ground tackle is essentially ready to go. You know, we keep our rod and our anchor chain in a bucket and the anchor's laying forward. We want to make sure that that bitter end is tied off to our bucket handle. So when we go to set the hook, we're not wondering or waiting to find the bitter end once all the rod is out. So our ground tackle is good to go, and forward hatch is stowed. Below decks is pretty well stowed. So again, safety gear goes over to the port side on almost all of our boats as a standard. Of course, Type 4 has been brought below. Left here, fire extinguisher shouldn't have been moved, etc. And then double check your ground tackle. It's ready to go. All right, the last thing we want to do as we step away from the boat is adjust and set our fenders. Now the boat's a little crooked in the slip right here because we're waxing this hull right now, so we've got it turned around. But the basic is supply. When we set our fenders up, no one's on the boat, so it's not leaning over. We don't need to have them down in the water. There's no need for them to grow a bunch of stuff. We want to pull them up so they're out of the water and just protecting the hull between the dock and the hull. And we tie our fenders off with a slippery clove hitch and a half hitch lock. You can learn more about that in our videos on knots. So again, I'm going to adjust this one so that it's not actually down in the water, growing stuff on the bottom of it. The marine environment does a pretty good job growing stuff. We don't need to help it. We got plenty of cleaning we have to do anyways. And then we're going to do a slippery clove hitch with a half hitch lock. And this fender, you'll notice, is way forward and it's outside of the spring line. So this one, we actually want our fenders right on the beam, and we want our fenders between our spring lines, our mooring dock lines, and the hull. That helps protect the hull from getting chafed, the wax getting chafed off by our spring lines. So they're all right at the beam now. It's not down in the water. It's low enough to protect the boat, but not touching the water. Slippery clove hitch and a half hitch lock. And our boat is all stowed. All right, so we're going to show you this gasket we were talking about earlier. We're just using this chair here as though it was the back of the cabin top, the back of the house, and this is one of the control lines. We would refer to this, or we could refer to this as a trapped line. It's not going anywhere. We're not going to coil it and put it below or anything. And we want it to hang at the back of our house. So we're going to use our left hand to start our coil. We're going to give ourselves, 8 or 10 inches or whatever, because that's where it's going to hang. It comes in from the left, and our left hand is going to be holding the coil while we make it. So we'll coil this up real quick. Then we reach through. This part has to stay as part of that coil. Reach through, take that portion, move it forward, give it a counterclockwise twist, and slip that over the top of your coil. You don't want to push it way down low or anything, just keep it towards the top, and it'll make this nice figure 8 gasket in there for you. And the line will hang just like that. And you can adjust your height as you wish, etc., by giving more or less line there. Beauty of this gasket is when you want to work with this line, that line is basically ready to go. So again, your left hand, give yourself some room, because that's the part you're going to reach through to. Make your coil in your left hand. I'm coiling with my right hand. Reach through. This part stays with the coil. Reach through, move it forward, give it a counterclockwise twist, and slip that loop over the top of your coil. And there you have it.